Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel, Thrifty and 50. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been here before, thank you. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You know I gotta do that little spiel because that's what we're supposed to do. So that way we can get more subscribers, but this can get pushed out to other people. So y'all, on this particular episode, here on Thrifty and 50, we are going to talk about the blueprint. Yes, the blueprint. The blueprint, the backstory. Because behind every blueprint, there's a backstory. Because sometimes you got to go back before you go forward. So let's get started, and I'll see you in a little bit. Don't move, don't go nowhere. Get your tea, get you your coffee, get you And we are back. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And guys, don't forget to hit that little bell so that way you'll be notified of all my uploads. So, this is the blueprint, I think there's a blueprint for everything, and a backstory for every relationship, situationship, money ship, if that's a real word. But I'm going to take you back because at every foundation of everything, you know, that kind of sometimes predicts sometimes your behavior or lack thereof. And I told y'all I was going to be transparent and tell y'all all, I wouldn't say all, but be very transparent because why make up something? Just tell where I had a part in playing with it. So I'm going to take you way on back to Brooklyn, New York, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys so that way you guys will be able to see exactly. um let's see if y'all will be able to see what I'm working with here. The entire, I'm going to share the audio, and I'm going to see if we can share the screen. So let's see what you're seeing there. I am going to share it, and you'll be able to see what's on the screen. So let's see what you're looking at, guys. So I am originally from Brooklyn, New York, Brownsville. And I just want to show you some pictures way back and take you back to my family. So I grew up in Brownsville, New York, Brooklyn, in a project called Howard Projects. I had to write stuff down so I don't forget. Um, we lived in the front or the back, whichever way you came in. And I have really fond memories of Howard. We were poor, but when you're poor, you really don't even realize that you're poor. But we had a good time. And I have really fond memories of going to the pool there, Howard Pool. My dad worked there for the Parks Department. And my other grandmother lived in Brownsville houses, which were the other PJs or projects over there. Okay. But like I said, I didn't realize we were poor. But when you're talking about money, how you spend money, what you think about money, your attitude and your behavior toward money, it has a lot to do with your upbringing. So let's look at some pictures here. So right here on the screen, showing you, let's see, and I don't know if you can see this. This is a cash in place, right? So my grandfather was a veteran. He had 12 children, and I'm the oldest grandchild, right? So a village kind of sort of raised me. But as it relates to money, all I remember and recall about money is my grandfather, disabled vet, he would get a check on the first and third. And the checks came through the mail Yes, they did, millennials. It wasn't no direct deposit. You had to get a paper check, wait for Miss Pat, the mail lady, to bring it, put it in your mailbox, and then take it to the checking place. Now in Brooklyn, where we were, there was one bank, and I think it was Metropolitan Hanover Trust Bank. But this is where we went. We went there to cash checks, pay bills, and we really weren't familiar with the banking system per se because we would go and cash the checks. So let's look at some other pictures. Let's see if there's any other pictures that I can show you. Okay, wait. Uh. So this is a historic picture wallpaper. I grew up in, like I said, Howard Projects, East New York. This is Pickett Avenue, and this is Mother Gaston. But if you from around the way, Mother Gaston, they changed all the street names. It was called Stone Avenue. And this sign is still there to this day. I don't know if it's a landmark, but that's where I grew up. And right around that corner up from this sign was the check cashing place on Stone Avenue. I don't know if it's still there. So this is a picture, guys. Let me try to blow it up and see if I can blow this picture up. So you see that sign right there? That's the same picture. This picture is the picture probably from the 1960s. This was Royal Wallpaper. And on this street here was a Royal Farms. And right here is Manufacturers Hanover Trust. That was one of the only banks in our neighborhood. Me and my granddad and my other uncle, we would walk around that corner to cash his checks. But that's that same wallpaper sign. And see, this is what it looks like to this day. So, yeah. So, this is another picture, the blackout of 1977. That's just some nostalgia. This back in the day on Belmont and Pickens Avenue, they sold a lot of groceries and fresh food markets out on the street. So if you needed fresh fruits and vegetables, you did not have to go to the bodega and you did not have to go into the supermarket. They sold the fresh produce right out on the street. And this is a picture of someone in the 60s in Brownsville buying fresh produce. Excuse me. These pictures, oh my God, big wheels. Back in the day, we had Pro-Ceds, if y'all know what I'm talking about. These are the big wheels that we used to ride on. Me and my uncle used to ride on the big wheels. Look at these guys. And we were all poor, but we didn't know it, y'all. I think this was around Fulton Street or something like that. I'm just giving you some nostalgia. Now, back in the day, on Pickens Avenue, we would go in and we would look in the store. This is what you call window shopping because they had displays in the window. And look at this lady with her baby. This was on Pickens Avenue, and she's there, Layette Carnival. And so you would look and you would go in and look and say, "Oh, that dress." They would put the dresses out there. There were no real mannequins, really. And what we this is how we lived, y'all. So look, if I can't say more, this picture is worth 1,000 words. And look at our young black men. All of their pants, this probably looks like this was the late 70s, early 80s. Hair's cut, nothing nappy, had their coats on. They still posing, styling and profiling. But everybody pants was up on their body and nothing was hanging down. And look at these handsome brothers. I tell you what. Yes, indeedy. So I just want to give you, a little throwback of where I am from. So let's see if I can go to the next picture, y'all. What Pickens Avenue looked like. This is 1549 Pickens Avenue. Y'all remember when we used to put the quarter inside the little horsey and ride on the horsey outside while you looked in the store for your shoes and stuff? They called this the Pickens Avenue Bootery. I think the sign left. And they specialized in wide widths. And that's when you really had real shoes back in the day. So this is where I grew up. I'm giving you the blueprint. The blueprints. The blue ooh ooh. So this right here is Livonia Avenue. And one of the things that you can see here in the picture, let me enlarge it a little bit, is the women. Look at how the women are dressed. These are black women and the black men. They're well dressed. They have on clothes covering themselves. They had on very nice long dresses. The men looked like they had shirts with pants and slacks and belts. Now, when I started working, because that was the family history of going to the check cashing place, got my job, right? And even when I had started with employment, we went to the check cashing place. And instead of going to the check cashing place there, we would go to the one I think was on Fifth Avenue and Flatbush. And this is what the check cashing place looked like in the early 80s and 90s. And when you took it to the check cashing place, they cashed your check. They took a percentage, which is not good. Okay, they're taking a percentage of your money, whereas if you put it in a bank, there's no percentage coming out. Now, this right here, this is a picture of a young Hispanic brother. Shout out to my Latina brothers and sisters. This is Pickens Avenue, and it was Tom McCann. If y'all know Tom McCann, that's where you used to go to get your shoes. There wasn't a lot of variety, but it was like Tom McCann, Baker's, Woolworth. Oh, that was right there on Pickens Avenue. These are some of the brothers out there sitting on the crates. If y'all know what crates is, before the crates were plastic with the milk, these, let me try to enlarge this. The crates were metal. So you could literally sit out on the street, bring your crate, and sit out there and talk and, and shoot the breeze with the peoples. Jumping rope. Okay. Look, guys, look at how cute and adorable. And they all had a jump rope. And that's one thing we all learned how to do. The kids were outside, they exercised, and they learned how to jump rope. Okay, that's what we called it. How cute. Look at their faces. Oh my gosh. So this is where we were poor. You can see in the background, but we played rope and there was probably somebody watching us. I see that little doll right there. And they were playing rope. And you could send, that was when your kids out to go outside. Can't do that no more. I'm from Brooklyn, son. So that's the blueprint, guys, right? That is definitely the blueprint. This is showing you pictures of the check cashing place. There used to be a luncheonette. There's the 7-Up sign. Checkers, gyros, money orders. So my grandfather would get money orders to pay certain bills with, but we would go into the check cashing place. So that's what we did, guys. We in the inner cities. Sometimes we would go to the bank, but more than likely we would go to the check cashing place, and that's where we started. So I'm gonna stop sharing. So I just wanted to give you um the backstory. We started out. What I recall about money, I don't recall savings. I don't recall anybody saying that. I don't recall credit cards. I do recall my grandfather going to cash his check, and then by the third day, maybe fourth day, it was gone because he had 12 children plus grandkids. So that money would get spent. Now, I'm not saying some of the stuff was not spent on things that should not have been spent, like cigarettes and beer and liquor. Okay. Some of those vices, but they definitely was spent on food, the rent. So that's what we did. They paid the rent, went downstairs to the rent office, paid the rent, went and bought food. Sometimes he would go to Cologne or to Fat Man, which were bodegas. And most of the times they were Latina Hispanics, Puerto Ricans at the bodegas, and they would give my grandfather credit, meaning he could get stuff without paying at the time. But once he got his check, he would have to go back and give it. So give them the money. So by the time, sometimes there was layaway that we would get secondhand furniture, or there was certain furniture stores you would go to and put down some down payments, and then you would get it off like a layaway, and they would deliver the furniture to you. That's how we got things back in the day. But I sure saw that there was a cycle of get your check, cash it, go pay your rent, go pay your telephone bill. In the projects, we didn't pay gas and electricity, buy food, pay the life insurance because the life insurance man used to come personally, and then you were broke. And that's typically how and then we were all waiting and you know, waiting around for the first and third of the month to come again. And it was a cycle over and over and over again. I don't recall any big windfalls of money. I don't recall any savings. Now, when we did get to public school, there was a dime savings bank, and I think Manufacturers Hanover, and they came into the schools and we opened up little passbook savings, but you started it with $1, but we didn't have a lot of money. So that was my first experience as far as respect for money and being good stewards. That's how we lived. And I showed you the backdrop. We were poor, inner city. You know, my grandfather didn't get food stamps or welfare because he was a vet. So with his veterans check and I guess his social security check is what had to cover and make do every 30 days. Your rent, your cell phone bill. Um, they didn't have a car. So there was no car insurance. We took the train, the bus, wherever we needed to go. And then you have kids and mouths to feed. So let me see if I forgot anything. The other thing was, as far as a home was concerned, my first recollection of understanding that there was more, because some people don't ever leave the block where they are. My cousins, I would call them my cousins. My mom got married, and my stepfather's niece's children, they lived in some condos downtown Brooklyn by the Brooklyn Bridge. And I was enamored. I was like, oh my God, they're rich. And then their mother, God rest her soul, Dale, she was a nurse and she bought a house and we would go over there and I was like, oh my God, you can live in a house. And so that was my first introduction into careers because she was a nurse and I was like, oh my gosh, if you're a nurse, you can get a house. um and not wanting to be in the projects. In the beginning, in the projects, it was really a very family oriented place, y'all. But then I ended up moving with my mom and my stepdad to Cypress Hills projects. But even then, um, and my dad lived in Brownsville projects, there was always a situation with the elevator being broke, the elevator being pissy. When we call pissy, people urinating in the elevator, smelling the urine. The guys would come and clean it up from housing, but the very next day or Friday night, it would be pissed up. Um, and that was the common thing. But again, my first recollection of money was you get money, you spend it, you pay your bills, and you're good. I didn't really respect the money in that way, or the thing about saving for a rainy day. Such a thing that we understood. My attitude was go to work, go to school, go to work, pay your bills, and you know, you aspire to other things down the road. So that is the blueprint, y'all. I'm trying to see if I left anything out. I mean, if you from the projects, the smell of piss in the elevator. Sometimes they in there smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, and whatever else they was doing in them back staircases back there. For me, the library was my haven. That's where I would go. So in Howard Projects, there was a library there on Stone Avenue. But as I got older, I knew I didn't want to live there. And I knew if I had children, I didn't want them to live there either. Um, right. So let me see. So in the demographics, I don't know. The demographics for Ocean Hill, Brownsville, as of I think it was the 2020 census. The median age there is 30, and the median income is 21,000, and that's currently. Um, and the population, I did some statistics, is 114,654. So the median income for Ocean Hill, Brownsville, where I grew up, is today. Now that was in 2020. It's 2022. Was 21,000. So after all the bills were paid, there was no money left for anything, savings, nothing. Could there have been savings? Yes, minus buying cigarettes, beer, liquor, you know. But my grandfather would pay the rent. We were never in risk of being evicted or anything that I know of because he always paid the rent first. First thing he was like, I'm going to the rent office to pay the rent. He would go downstairs and the rent office was connected in the building where we lived. He would go pay the rent and then we would go and buy food. So that was my first. That's the blueprint, y'all. I showed y'all some pictures of around the way where I grew up to let y'all know the backstory. And I will be as transparent as possible to bring you up to date till today so y'all can understand where I'm at. But one of the great things that we're going to do is we're going to pay off some debt. That's the goal. This is what I've been looking at every day. That is, we're going to talk about the budgets. I don't know if you can see. Let me see if you can see this in the camera. Okay. So this is my little thing, and I keep that there. And we'll talk about the emergency fund, what I'm doing. But I thought it important to give you a backstory of how I grew up, because that did mold and shape my thought process as it relates to money. Get a job, work, pay your bills. That was it. So y'all, tell me how y'all feel about this. Was your upbringing some of the same? Did some people grew up in a middle class. Like I said, my grandfather was a vet, so he was disabled, so he could not work. He was blind. So that was one of the reasons why we would walk with him. He would put his hand on our shoulder, and we would take him. We was his eyes, myself and my uncle or my other cousins, and we would take him to the check cashing place where he would cash his check. Um, and then from there, we would go and do what we needed to do. So I think, and I'm for sure, it's not that I think, my foundation as it relates to my respect or how I viewed money from the very beginning, that shaped and molded things, you know. But it was always a cycle of get to check, pay your bills, and there wasn't anything left over. But like I said, my grandfather was responsible. He made sure the rent got paid. He made sure that we had food to eat. But it seemed like, if I could remember, after the third or fifth day, there was no more money left. It was just enough to buy food, pay the insurance man. He would send some money down south, pay the telephone bill, and then you got kids, you gotta go buy stuff, children. So that was how I grew up, and I was the grandchild. So I wanted to give y'all the blueprint, the backstory about where it all began. That's where it all began for me, Ocean Hill, Brownsville, East New York, in the 70s. So I just want to give you guys a bird's eye view so y'all could come into, understand, where I started. And then I'll share with you and be as transparent with you to let y'all know some of my stuff, and I think that helps us to keep each other accountable. You know, Accountability is important, to be accountable to someone or something as it relates to as it relates to your finances. At least be accountable to yourself. So this is Thrifty and 50 giving you the backstory, the blueprint. Because like I said, in every situationship, relationship, moneyship, there is a backstory. And sometimes you got to go back to go forward. So if you're new here and you like this video, subscribe to the channel. We are going to have fun. I'm going to tell you and give you the 411. That's old. I don't even think they say that. What do they say now? Give you the tea. But I think this is important for us to share, but to be transparent and to be honest, because just as what it took to get you in debt, it's going to take some work to get you out of debt. So that's the blueprint. That's the backstory. And I want you guys to like this video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Let's get out of debt together. Even in the middle of everything collapsing, I'm trying to really, and I'll talk to you, especially on this channel, about the financial mistakes, things that you should never do, how to save money instantly. Like today, I saved, let's see, I'll do a video on that. Let's see, let me turn. And when you see this calculator, that means we're going to be calculating a budget, showing you what I saved. You know what I mean? So today I saved $348 in 10 minutes. And y'all probably saying, that don't even make sense. Yes, I did. So I'll do a video on that. Come back. Was it 29 times 12? So that'll be $348 in a year. I saved $348 in 10 minutes flat. And sometimes all we got to do, guys, is just open up our mouth. If you want to see that video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next upload of Thrifty and 50. Peace, and I'm out.